Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is Lap Guide for Nurburgring Nordschleife with the Porsche 930. Let's get this started. Quick tip, since this car is a rear engine rear-wheel drive, you want to gently start to accelerate out of turns. That way you reduce the risk of the car wanting to step out, thus losing control. So your first braking point is going to be before the pit wall on the right end. Brake hard for a short moment. Take your time easing off the brakes and slowly applying the throttle. Now you're going to want to look for this white sign on the left, as that's going to be your turning point, and you want to ease off the throttle almost all the way and then get back on it. Now bring yourself to the right, and when you reach these shadows that go across the track, that is when you want to brake hard for a while. Gently ease off the brakes so the car can rotate around these turns and slowly accelerate. Now be aggressive on these turns. Use quick bursts of braking to get the car to quickly rotate around these turns. And when the tarmac changes color, that is when you want to brake. Try to go through this little chicane in as straight of a line as you can, using minimal steering. That way the car doesn't want to step out. Now just after you make this jump up ahead, there's going to be a little dip. Just before you reach that little dip, you want to use very quick taps on the brake and then slowly start to accelerate. Try to be gentle with accelerating, that way the car doesn't want to step out. Your next braking points are going to be just after you pass these two signs on both sides of the track. You want to use some of your braking power to bring yourself to the left side of the track and then brake just before the curb on the left ends. You want to try not to overshoot this turn, get the car to quickly rotate around this turn, and then start to accelerate. You want to be a little careful here, so when you reach this apex that's going to be on the left, you want to try to get as close to it as you can, and shortly after the curb on the right starts, that is when you want to start to brake. Quickly ease off of the brakes, then brake more for this right turn. Just get the car to rotate and then brake before you reach the crosswalk. Bring yourself all the way to the left side of the track, then use some throttle control. Just get the car to quickly rotate around this turn to get a fast exit. Brake nice and early for this turn. Don't use all your braking power, just use some of it. And then just after you pass the writing that is on the tarmac, that is when you start to brake. So brake just after you pass it. Quickly ease off of the brakes, just let the car rotate around this turn, and then brake when you reach the white signs that are on the left. Once again, just let the car quickly rotate around this turn. Take your time applying the throttle. Now ease off of the throttle as you make your way through this chicane. Try to keep the car under control and then brake before the curb on the right starts. Just try to be very careful as you make your way through this turn. Don't go too fast, don't go too aggressive, and then brake nice and early for this part over here. Just try to exit this turn in as straight of a line as possible. That way you can get a fast, clean exit. Now you're going to want to bring yourself to the right side of the track and brake before the curb on the right ends. Take your time slowly accelerating. Bring yourself to the left and brake before the curb on the left ends. Take your time accelerating again, especially for this part, since it is possible to easily lose control here. Now take this left turn at full throttle and look for a blue dot that is hanging out in the middle of the track, as you want to brake just before you pass it. Brake hard for a short while, then you can quickly ease off of the brakes to let the car rotate and start to accelerate. Now for this part over here, you want to stay on third gear the entire time. So let's fast forward through this. Bring yourself to the right and brake before the gray curb on the right ends. You'll be using some of your braking power, not all of it. Just focus on getting the car to quickly rotate and stay on the track. You can ease off the throttle for this right turn. That way the car stays on track and doesn't make contact with the grass, and brake before the curb on the left starts. Just take your time slowly accelerating. It's going to be easy for the car to want to step out over here. So just get the car under control, and just after you pass the happy little tree that is on the left, that is when you want to start to brake. So make sure you say hello to it as you pass by it. Bring yourself onto the inside of the turn and wait until your car is pointing where you want to go before you start to fully accelerate. Take this left turn at full throttle, then brake just before the curb on the right starts. Brake hard for a very short moment, then do some throttle control, keep the car under control, and then brake before you start to turn in. Just take your time slowly accelerating, and then you want to ease off the throttle as you make this right turn, and brake before you make this left turn. Just focus on keeping the car under control at all times. Now brake before the curb on the left ends, bring yourself all the way to the inside of the turn, and look for the shadow of the tree that goes across the track as you want to brake just after you pass it. This is when you want to go down to second gear and stay there for a while. Just stay on the left, brake before the curb on the left ends, take your time slowly accelerating, then brake before the curb on the left ends once again. Take your time slowly accelerating, bring yourself to the right, briefly go up to third gear, then brake nice and early, go down to second gear, and then start to fully accelerate. Try to be nice and careful here and brake just before you make this jump. Take your time slowly accelerating as this part is a little bumpy here. Just make sure you keep the car under control at all times. Bring yourself to the left, turn in before the curb on the left ends. Just try to gently turn in, that way the car is still under control. Now brake just after the gray curb on the left ends. So as you see here, the gray curb on the left, just after it ends, you want to start to brake. So brake hard for a moment, slowly ease off of the brakes, try to bring yourself to the right, and brake nice and early for this next turn. Try not to be too aggressive on the throttle, and brake when you reach these shadows. Just bring yourself to the inside of the turn, bring yourself to the left as soon as you can, brake before the curb on the left ends, and try not to hit the curb that is on the right as the car will get launched as you just saw right now. Now ease off the throttle, just try to keep the car nice and stable and slowly start to accelerate. Now let's fast forward through this part and brake just before the curb on the left ends. You'll be using quick bursts of braking, so you'll do one burst over here, another burst before the curb on the right ends, and this burst will be a little bit longer, just trying to bring yourself all the way to the inside of the turn. Slowly accelerate, and finally brake when the tarmac reaches over to the left side of the track. So you brake hard for a short moment, just carefully start to accelerate your way out, and give yourself a pat on the back as you just completed a lap here in a very difficult combination. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this guide. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA, wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.